welcome back to episode 2 of Zoom Action, KSR's rebranded film room video breakdown show, whatever you want to call it. We are back today to actually talk about some Zoom Action. We have a Zoom Action play to work with that happened from Kentucky's first game against Wright State. That is the game that we're going to be dissecting today. That'll be the second play we're going to talk about, those the Zoom Action plays. So we've got technically four different plays to kind of go through, all offensive plays. As always, I'll kind of talk about how they all play out, and then Brandon will put on his coaching hat on top of his on-3 hat that he has there, and he'll break down everything that actually happened and kind of go inside the mind of Mark Pope. We're going to end things with our little question of the day. We're not going to do it's only one game but, because we already did that with the exhibition. We're actually going to kind of look ahead to the Duke game next Tuesday and talk about how Kentucky might defend someone named Cooper Flagg, who apparently is going to be pretty good. Kentucky obviously won their season opener on Monday, just to quickly refresh. Won the season opener on Monday, 103-62, a 41-point win for number 41 Mark Pope in his season opener, or Kentucky debut, rather. It was very poetic. It was a great atmosphere, great vibes. We were all there. Brandon Ramsey even hopped on the rapid reaction, which I'm sure was a little bit different than the rapid reactions he's used to watching, because honestly, I have a blast with how we're doing those nowadays. Just having all the fan interaction out there.
And Tom Hart was there.
Yeah, I did. I was jealous of that,
That's
honestly,
true.
when I learned.
Hart, didn't you?
Yeah, because I had to pop down there for Mark Pope, and of course Tom Hart pops out. But maybe next time I'll catch him. But Kentucky plays Bucknell this Saturday at home. Brandon, are you going to be for that game as well? You coming down?
No, I'm actually going to be in Nashville.
Ooh, okay. Doing what? Can you spoil the secret?
Just hanging out.
Okay, hanging out, having a good time.
Doing Brandon Ramsey things. I'm going to
Belmont. He's going to go watch Lipscomb play basketball, probably.
I'm going to watch Belmont play Lipscomb, and then I'm going to watch Vanderbilt play Southeast Missouri.
Jeez, okay.
And then a Division II Trevecca Nazarene game.
That's the one I wanted to hear, was the Division II team. Make sure you have your full scouting report for next episode ready to go. Well, but I blabbered on long enough. Let's go ahead and jump into the first play here. I will go ahead and bring it up. And oddly enough, just as we started the very first episode of Zoom Action, we are starting with the first play of the game again. This is actually a very similar play to what Kentucky ran against. I think it was Kentucky Wesleyan, correct, Brandon?
Yes.
A very similar play, only there was just a slight change of how they actually ended the play and got the basket, where Andrew Carr kind of reads the defense, and instead of going over top of a Jackson Robinson screen there in the middle, he goes under, and you have a beautiful pass from a 7-foot playmaker in Amari Williams, who gets Kentucky an easy basket. But Brandon, I'll go ahead and let you kind of break down things here. Obviously, this is a very similar play, but Mark Pope knew that Wright State would have this play scouted, so he decided to put his little, so I use the word tweak. I'm going to. He put his own little tweak on it at the very end there to kind of catch Wright State off balance. Wright State didn't see it coming. Boom, easy 2 points, and the game's underway. So Brandon, take us through what you see here and how Mark Pope changed things up just at the last second there to throw some confusion at Wright State.
Yeah, so once again, you have a kind of called special set play dialed up here to begin the season for Kentucky against Wright State. And as they get through some of this little pre-movement, once again, Amari Williams gets his catch a little off the block here. So the thing to watch is that about at this point, this is the exact same play that Kentucky started with against Kentucky Wesleyan. If you remember, and you can go back and watch episode 1 of Zoom Action, Andrew Carr kind of cut over the top of a little cross screen here, caught the ball about on the block as Amari Williams got his catch a little off of the block, and just shot the little sort of push shot at the rim for 2 points. Now, I think this time, Mark Pope assumed that Wright State had that play scouted a little bit. A lot of times you're going to scout an opponent's first play, try to get out ahead of what they might do. So you can kind of see that here, where I think number 14 for Wright State probably recognizes it. Like, sort of credit to Wright State's coaching staff, credit to number 14, Brandon Noel, for having a good idea of what's about to happen. But, and you can see, like, he's probably reading that cross screen thinking, I'm going to go beat Andrew Carr to the spot here. And instead, Andrew Carr cuts underneath this little diagonal back screen to the rim for a lob from Amari Williams. And I think the other really interesting thing too here is that we've now seen 2 games between the exhibition and then now with Wright State, where we've started games with utilizing Amari Williams' passing ability. And that just shows, and he had 3 assists in this game, had some loose moments with the ball too, but
Some
he's
missed backdoor cuts, yeah, that
yeah,
should be
yeah.
fixed.
But he's just so skilled as a passer, and that's such a luxury. Like, how often in college basketball, Zach? I watch a ton of college basketball. You watch a lot of college basketball. You don't often see the 5-man throwing an alley oop to the 4-man. Like, that's not something that's in the everyday arsenal for a lot of college basketball teams, and it's just
Or
such a
NBA.
luxury, right? And yeah, for Amari Williams to be able to do that and to utilize that, now we've seen it a couple of different times with different wrinkles, and it shows the creativity, I think, of this Kentucky coaching staff as well, to sort of you're always thinking 1, 2, 3 moves ahead, like you're moving the chess pieces around of, okay, we've shown them this on film, we know they've seen that on film, so we're going to show them the same thing, but we're going to just tweak it a little bit so that we can still get 2 points out of the play.
Yeah, I'm sure this is probably a play that we'll continue to see throughout the rest of the season, just with minor wrinkles thrown in as teams begin to figure it out. I'm sure Pope will find ways to work around it. But just to harp on Amari Williams for a second, I believe last week when we did our It's Just One Game, but I just couldn't stop raving about his passing ability. And we're seeing it play out in person here. And I feel like he's already a lot more confident in the first game of the regular season than he was in the first exhibition game in terms of, those backdoor cuts, they weren't executed. Some of that was timing. Like I know one he pretty much threw over the head of Kobe Bryant, who didn't cut. He thought he was going to cut. Like, that chemistry is going to come together. But Amari Williams is very, very comfortable and confident in bringing the ball up the floor, looking, being the guy that operates from the top of the key and literally being a point center. And we're seeing him now in back-to-back. Well, back to first preseason, then the first regular season game of him opening up games as the guy that's facilitating the first bucket. And I think that's significant and notable just because of how often he's going to be used in this offense. And the more comfortable and confident he looks, just the better UK's offense is going to flow, and the easier it's going to be to generate all these points. So I thought that was an awesome, great play to start there, Brandon. We'll go ahead and dive on into the next one, unless you've got anything else you want to add to that.
No, I think let's keep moving it right along.
All right, we'll go into play number 2 here. We're about halfway through the first half. Kentucky, as you see, is up by 11 points here. They're about to get rolling, or I think later on, Wright State keeps it within 13 or 14 points. But soon after this is when Kentucky starts to really build their lead. But this is our first actual Zoom action play that we're going to break down. It starts with just Amari kickstarting a fast break by taking a rebound and dishing off to Kerr. You see a lot of quick movements, a lot of quick passing, very few dribbling, which is just a side effect of this offense that's really fun to watch. A nice quick pass across the court to Colin Chandler, who at this point understands that he can maybe set something up a little bit. So he passes it off to Amari, who comes up to the key, and then they get into their Zoom action real quick. Colin comes down, sets his screen. But instead of Kobe coming over the top and receiving the handoff from Amari, which is more of the traditional Zoom action set, right, Brandon?
Yeah, absolutely.
More or less. So instead of doing that, he pulls himself away, notices that he just has himself settled in wide open to a corner 3. Colin Chandler does a good job of kind of holding his defender. The guy that was originally guarding Colin cannot get over to Kobe fast enough. Wide open 3 for a 50% three-point shooter is going to go in probably more than 50% of the time if you leave him that wide open. So, Brandon, I'll let you do your X to the nose breakdown of this play and just what you saw and why we chose this play.
Yeah, so I think one of the things, and Zach and I were just kind of mentioning this before we got rolling here, but it is impressive to watch. Again, this game was played on November 4th, and you see just the recognition of these guys on the court. Again, when you're talking about players that have never played a minute of college basketball with each other, and then Colin Chandler with the ball, as you just said, Zach, is a freshman. Yeah, he's a 21-year-old freshman, whatever, but still, he's also hasn't been playing organized basketball the last 2 years. So to, at this point, get a catch, like, okay, you didn't get anything out of transition. You don't have an easy, catch and shoot 3. You don't have an easy drive to the basket. So let's get into some offense. And he kind of lets things settle and then pulls it out. All right, let's get into some Zoom action. So Amari Williams comes up, gets a catch as he would, and now you're into your traditional Zoom action, which, as we've talked about before, it's essentially a down screen into a handoff. So traditionally speaking, at this point, Colin Chandler is going to screen on Kobe Bryant's man. Kobe is going to kind of set him up. Then he's going to come sprinting off here to receive the handoff from Amari Williams. That would be traditional zoom action. But just like we talked about a lot in our first episode of this show, and what'll be a recurring feature really throughout, is the multiplicity of every set of, yeah, you can call something, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get to true zoom action. Like, yes, you're setting up zoom here, but you don't really end up running it. And that's because you're reading your defender. It is read and react. And in this instance, Brea does a good job of setting up his man. Like, look at how low Kobe and his defender are at this point. Like, he's a couple steps inside the 3-point line. Not to mention, Colin Chandler does a great job of going and finding the body for a screen. He's not just screening an area, he's screening a body. And as Zack mentioned when he was speaking about the play just a minute ago, that physicality at the point of the screen is a big part of what got Kobe Brea open. But both Brea's physicality with his man and then Chandler actually going and seeking out some contact there. So as Amari dribbles over here, you get this separation. And that's something that leads to Kobe Brea making 100 threes last year, as he's so good and advanced at finding ways to create separation without having to dribble the basketball. Like, this is just setting up his man, receiving a screen, and then knowing, like, okay, look at how far down he is right here. That means I'm going to have room to step back, receive this little pass, and before anybody else can recover, I'm going to be able to get off my shot. And again, that's what, we can kind of romanticize, I think, at times, the Coach Mark Pope system and some of the offense and the intricacies of it. And yes, it is intricate, but it's really intricate, not on the surface, but because there's, in theory, infinite options, because you're reading and reacting. Like, the play that was quote unquote called there wasn't what ended up being ran. So, like, that's what makes it intricate, is because the players have to make these decisions on the fly, where you're not necessarily just running the play. You're kind of within a structure, but then taking what the defense gives you. And this time, what the defense gave Kobe Brea was a little step back into an open 3-point shot. And when you make 50% of them, you want to, as I would say on Twitter, shoot them all.
Shoot them all. Yeah, I think the most impressive part, I think, of this is just, like you're saying, is you notice that a 21-year-old understands that, look, all right, our initial fast break, we didn't get the look we like. So the fact that this is already kind of baked into the offense is kind of what you're talking about with, like, the wrinkles of it. Like, this is just something that they know to do. They know that, like, all right, we can just kind of get into a real quick action here. Again, you've got Amari Williams generating the play. Like, he is the guy he's the fulcrum of the offense here. And that's just what happens when you've got a guy like Amari and a guy like Kobe who've played so many games before. Part of Kobe being able to understand that he can get this shot in the corner is that he's played 100 college basketball games before. He knows that he understands how the defense is going to react to this. Again, credit to Colin Chandler for that's the benefit of being 6'6". You can kind of put your body into a guy as opposed to just kind of putting your hands at your hips and maybe trying to set a pick or something. Colin goes into his guy and helps create that actual space for Kobe. But, like, just having this built into the offense is really what I love the most, because you're not going to have, it just feels like you're not going to have nearly as many instances of burning the shot clock out because your guy can't beat someone one-on-one. Kentucky's still going to need guys to go beat opposing defenders one-on-one, but when you can just get into simple sets and actions like this so quick and so easily, and you've got freshmen that are able to call it and recognize it, and then you've got veterans that are around that know how to read and react to all these different defenses that are being thrown at you, it just makes for some really fun offense. And this was it was a really fun play to watch. Bert, run it through one more time, Brandon. I just like to watch it.
Yeah, while we're running it through one more time, I want to show something here real quick. Like, again, as I mentioned, you come down, you don't have anything kind of in your initial transition, your first sort of push down the floor. But I think it's important. Kentucky's bench is on the other side. Notice how, like, at no point is anybody turning around and saying, like, hey, coach, what do you want to run here? No, like, they're making these decisions, and you can actually see it. I didn't notice this, Zack, until literally 30 seconds ago, as I was just kind of flipping through it as you were talking through the play. Kirk Kreese is the one that initiates this. You can see him right here he kind of starts to point of, hey, Amari, go get it. Amari, go get it. Like right here, that's what he's doing. So like Kerr's the one calling this play. Like, all right, hey, Amari, come get a catch and let's get into zoom. So he gets out of the way. He tells Ansley to take that spot, and then we're right into it. So again, that's what makes this so hard is that instead of having to, have Colin Chandler like dribble the ball out here, hand it to Kerr because he's the point guard. Kerr puts the ball on his hip, turns around, gets a call from the coach, and now you're at 15 seconds. Like instead, you're already getting into this action before we would have even had something called in the past. And that is the Mark Pope system as much as anything else.
And another point is leave it right there, Brandon. Actually, go back like one frame to where they're all kind of bunched up there. Is you'll like normally it doesn't feel like when you have three players, even closer, even when they're more bunched up together, when you have three of your own guys that are that close together, it doesn't feel like you're often going to get a wide open shot from that same area. And that's exactly what happens. And initially it kind of looked like Colin was maybe the guy that set up, but now that you notice that Kerr calls it out, it just goes back to having another guy who's played 100 plus college basketball games and can notice these sets before, or notice what's happening before it even happens, essentially. But yeah, look how grouped up all those guys are right there, and it still works out perfectly. You get a wide open three for the best 3-point shooter in the country. So spacing matters, even when it's just small amounts of space. So we'll go ahead and end that one, unless you got anything else you want to say, Brandon. We'll go into our third and fourth play, which we're going to kind of combine into one.
Let's do it.
And now we're going to move on to what we're going to call essentially a double Spain action play. There's two they pretty much are the exact same version of each other. We see this first play called here around the 8-minute mark of the first half. The second one happens like in the 3 or 4 minute mark of the second half. But it's the exact same play. You get the exact same result as a Brandon Garrison dunk here. But as we see, it starts out, it's just a double Spain action play. So there's a lot of movement, a lot of screens going on. You see Ansley takes that first dip down to the rim there. Colin Chandler rises up over Brandon Garrison's screen as I let it play out here. And then you have Brandon Garrison set another screen. He slips it pretty quickly. Boom, easy dunk. I'm not even going to try and go into the technical mumbo jumbo jargon of what this play actually looks like. I'm going to let Brandon do that because he knows way more about it than I do. So Brandon, take us through this whole movement of freedom of movement situation and how Kentucky was able to generate some points out of this play.
Right. So you do have what essentially is a double Spain ball screen here, because typically in a normal Spain action, if you just kind of got rid of Brandon Garrison and just act like he wasn't there, you would have Olmanar setting the ball screen, Colin Chandler would back screen his man, and you would roll and pop. Well, instead you have two back screens here. So as Ansley rolls to the basket, now because you have a double back screen, you have a guy in Brandon Garrison who can just turn and set a little down screen for Colin Chandler, a good shooter, to come off into space here. Now, Wright State actually does a pretty darn good job. They chase on his hip. They're with him on the catch. Nothing happening so far on this play. You didn't get Ansley on the roll off of the back screen. You didn't get Colin Chandler coming off of the down screen. So now, again, just more screening action still in the first essentially 10 seconds of the shot clock. So now Brandon Garrison turns and is ready to set a ball screen. Well, Colin Chandler does a good job. He's kind of setting him up. He's seeing right now, he's reading Brandon Garrison's man. And look at how high he is. Like both of that defender's feet are essentially in line or even above Brandon Garrison's bottom foot. So I think right now Colin Chandler's like kind of giving Garrison the eyes of like, hey man, slip to the basket. Finally, it gets communicated. Perfect pass to the outside hand from Colin Chandler to Garrison there. And then just look at all this space. Like at this point, the entire painted area, the entire key, the only player that's in it is a Kentucky player. You got Lamont Butler spaced out here. You got Ansley Olmanar, a great shooter, spaced out here. Otega Owe, who is making some catch and shoot threes. He's out here. And again, when you spread things out, it puts the defense in a position to make some mistakes. Like in a perfect world, Yeah, like you probably don't need to be out here guarding Oway. Number 3 could be in here towards the SEC logo. You don't need to be this close to Lamont Butler. He could be in here towards the midline. But they're not, because people make mistakes when they're having to guard this much movement and 3 or 4 different screening actions in the first 10 seconds of a play. So that leaves Brandon Garrison wide open for a dunk.
And that's what I took away from this play is there's so much going on, there's so much movement, there's so much passing that the defense, unless even average, slightly above average defenses, they're going to get confused and get lost in this. And there might be other opportunities during these plays. Like, look, you've got Ansley's wide open for a second down. Like there are other ways where defenses can get confused on these sort of plays. And the Wright State players probably know that they don't need to guard Oway and Lamont Butler that far out, but there's so much going on. And to be, not to kind of poo-poo on Wright State, but they're doing a little bit of ball watching here, maybe a little bit too much for their own good, but it burns them. And you're going to get this sort of look a decent amount of times against most defenses, unless, and you see Mark Pope even called the play out right there. Most defenses are going to struggle to defend so much action, is so much movement, and you're going to get yourself these sort of plays. And you've got Ansley who's wide open, or not wide open, but you've got Ansley in the corner there. Like, his guy cannot leave him in that corner over there because he's a 38%-ish three-point shooter. So you have to guard that guy. Ortega's done enough through the preseason that they're probably just worried enough about staying on him. I don't know why that guy's guarding Lamont Butler out that far, but it doesn't matter. It's a great pass from Colin, like you said there. A great catch from Brandon as well, who's honestly impressed me with how well he's able to kind of handle the ball and just have really good hands in general for a big man. But yeah, just the amount of movement is really what helps generate some points here on this play. And it's just another thing that is kind of baked into Pope's offense is when you have a lot of guys moving around, you're going to confuse the defense and eventually they're going to make a mistake. And that's exactly what we saw here. And we're going to see pretty much the exact same thing happen later on in this game. And we'll go ahead and flip over to that play right now. All right, and here we'll see literally the exact same play, just a little bit different personnel. Ansley is still kind of the guy at the top here that starts, and Brandon Garrison is still the one that receives the bucket. But we see the exact same play. We see the double Spain action. We see the initial screen there. Then we see the down screen for Kobe. And to Wright State's credit, again, they do a good job of getting over to guard the shooter. But you have the big is just playing out just a little bit too far out. And Kobe, instead of kind of doing the slit pass that Colin did, Kobe floats it over a little bit. Great pass and a great catch from Brandon here. You've got two of the greatest shooters in the history of Kentucky's high school basketball in the corner there, so you can't leave them. You've got Ansley over there as well. So it's just, this is even, as Brandon said when off screen here, this is an even a better example of the last play because you were so spaced out here that even good teams, even good defenses are more likely than not going to stay connected to these shooters because you cannot leave those guys open. You get two great opportunities for Brandon Garrison. These were his only two made buckets of the game. We won't talk about his hook shot right now, but if that thing comes along, he's going to be pretty good. But these two dunks were awesome. Brandon, if you have anything else you want to touch on before we dive into our last little segment here, go for it.
I think the last thing I'll mention here is that, think back to that zoom action play where we talked about, the called action compared to what actually occurred. You call the zoom action was a down screen into a handoff and essentially turns into none of that. Kobe Bryant just steps behind and makes a three. Well, here's a called double Spain ball screen, and both times, right? State actually guards it pretty well. But like, just think about all the different ways that you could score off of this. Like, in theory, at some point this season, you're probably going to have like
Ansley's going to get that catch.
Yeah. At some point, you're going to have a lob to Ansley Omanar or whoever's coming off at the rim. At some point this season, they're going to do a bad job here, and Kobe Bryant is going to make a three off of this. And then at some point this season, once Kobe Bryant makes a three, that defender's going to be out, and now it's going to be Travis Perry throwing the slip pass to Brandon Garrison. And then sometimes you're going to play it all the way through, and you'll actually just come off of the ball screen, and we'll just keep playing. So, like, again, this is one play where we just showed you on film. There's like 6 different ways that you could score, and that's how you can run the same play game to game and even half to half, as you just saw here. It just so happened, for the sake of this video, they scored in the same exact way twice, which made it kind of fun. But there'll be another game where we break down this play where they score 4 different ways, off of the same action in the same game. And that, again, that's what's so special about some of these, plays or actions within the Mark Pope offense.
And there'll even be times where the defense recognizes the play that's happening all the way through until the very end. And then when Brandon Garrison or even Amari Williams catches this pass in the middle, let's say one of those defenders pops down from Travis or for Trent, Brandon and Amari are most definitely capable enough of being able to read quickly enough to make that pass out there. We've already seen Amari make passes much harder than that 1,000 times. We know Brandon is very good at that. He had 5 assists and 0 turnovers in this game, something that you wouldn't have even noticed until you looked at the box score. These guys are good passers. They're, like Brandon said, there's just going to be so many different ways to try and get some points out of this. And I'm excited to watch us break this one down here in like mid-January or something with one of the different wrinkles. So I think that's going to do it for our actual video breakdown portion here. I'll go ahead and put us in the middle here, Brandon. Let's do it. You want to do it like that? Let's do it like this. This is a little bit better here.
We'll see our pretty faces that way.
Yeah, our pretty faces. So we're gonna last time we ended our episode with a "it's just one game but" thing. We're gonna do a little bit different with this one. We're going to end with a quick conversation looking ahead to the Duke game. We have the Bucknell game on Saturday. Brandon would coach speak us and tell us don't look ahead, but damn it, we're looking ahead to Duke. Brandon, I'm going to ask you first. Who guards Cooper Flagg?
I got this question on Twitter today. I saw it on KS Board today too, so I feel uniquely qualified to answer this question at this point. But to me, and there'll be reasonable minds that go different ways. Zach, you might disagree. I think it almost has to be Andrew Carr. And here's why. It's not because I think Andrew Carr is the best defender, because I don't think any of us would probably, have that take. I think Andrew Carr is probably an average defender at best. And Cooper Flagg is one of the most talented offensive players in college basketball. I just think that with Duke's personnel, it's very difficult to place the matchups unless Andrew Carr is guarding Flagg. For all intents and purposes, Flagg is their 4-man. Andrew Carr is obviously our 4-man. It does give you a little bit of size on Cooper Flagg. Like Andrew Carr can be 6'11", try to just be bigger than him to some extent. And when you look at the guards, like if Andrew Carr doesn't guard Cooper Flagg, are you going to ask him to chase around Concanipple all game? That's going to be really tough. Are you going to ask him to guard Tyrese Proctor or Caleb Foster, who are 6'5", 6'6" playmakers? Like those are their point guard and shooting guard. I just think it starts to get really hard. Like, yeah, it would be great if you could have, somebody as good as Lamont Butler or Otega Owe guard him, but those guys need to guard the guards. So but the one thing I do think is that because Duke positionally is so similar in terms of size, 1 through 4, I think you'll see Kentucky be very willing to switch any on or off ball action really in the half court, so that there'll be times where you do have Otega Owe guarding Cooper Flagg, or you have, especially on the perimeter, Lamont Butler trying to kind of get up underneath him and see if he can get a steal when Cooper Flagg puts it on the floor. So I think you'll see by committee a lot of guys, even within the same possession, switch on to Cooper Flagg. But I do think just positionally, it makes the most sense when they announce the matchups in the locker room. I think you'll see Andrew Carr start on Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, Jack Pogrom and I kind of had a discussion about this on our post-game TikTok walk home from the Wright State game. And my initial reaction was Owe, because he's taller than Lamont Butler. So that was why, that's the thought process. You think he's 6'5", Lamont's about 6'2". So you would put the bigger, stronger defender on Cooper Flagg. But then once you start to actually look into the personnel of Duke, you realize that they don't have any guards smaller than 6'5". You've got Tyrese Proctor, Caleb Foster, even some of their backup guys. They're all taller than the Concanipple, 6'7". There's just not many other options. Like you said, like you're not going to put Andrew Carr on their 7-footer. Right. Andrew Carr's a pretty decent rim protector, but it's not. Do you want to put him against the 7'2" kid? That could be difficult for him. So I'm not optimistic about Andrew Carr being able to properly defend Cooper Flagg for, however long he's on him. But like Brandon said, it's probably gonna be a lot of switching, throwing different stuff at Cooper to just try and make him uncomfortable. Maybe bring some double teams with guys like Owe and Lamont when you see him in the post. Maybe make those fast. You don't want it's going to be hard to play small ball against Duke too. So you can't really play. Maybe they can slide Andrew Carr down to the 5. Like I don't know how that would match up against a really tall Duke. A small ball Duke lineup is still going to have that's probably still got a 6'9" Cooper Flag or something playing the 5. So it's just going to be difficult to match up in terms of who's guarding Cooper. And you're probably not going to have Owe doing it as much as I would have initially thought. That was the initial thing I was thinking, is just you put the biggest, strongest guy you've got on him. I'm sure we'll maybe see some Ainsley Almanor minutes, maybe trying to guard him. I don't know how comfortable Pope is putting him on him at all. We haven't really seen enough just on-ball defense from a guy like Almanor to really be able to judge like if he's capable of being able to match up with that size. You're not going to put Amari Williams on him because he's going to have to deal with some of the other big guys too. So Cooper Flag's just going to be a mismatch nightmare for pretty much every team that he plays. He kind of struggled in that first game against Maine, if I recall, Brandon. I don't know if you watched that one or not, but I know that he didn't really score that much in the first half, kind of finished with some interesting shooting numbers. So his stat line still looked great.
18.7 rebounds, 5 assists. That's how good Cooper Flag is.
His stat line still looked great.
7 and 5, yeah.
But he didn't shoot the ball that great. So
that's 6 of 15, you're right.
Yeah, so that's going to be kind of what you're just hoping for, is that you can just make him annoyed enough that he's not the guy that kills you. Honestly, Colin Knippel's a guy that I'm almost just as worried about in terms of being able to guard, because that kid I think is very, very good. And those two together is just going to be tough. But it's going to be, like Brandon said, it's going to be a by committee thing. You're going to throw as many things at him. I won't be surprised if there's a point in the game where Lamont Butler is guarding Cooper Flag, I'll be honest with you.
Absolutely.
And I think that Lamont is going to be capable of being able to do that because he's like the Marcus Smart kind of guy, where he's just going to not be able to get bodied too much. So Mark Pope and his staff are going to spend, they've probably already been spending, they've probably been scouting about this for weeks now. So they're going to have an idea of what they want to do. Throwing Andrew Carr on Cooper first is probably what we're going to end up seeing. Brandon has convinced me very quickly. But it makes the most sense when you think about it, when you really dive into the actual personnel of who Duke has. Owe has to guard one of their big guards because they're all huge. They don't have a 6-foot guard or anything like that. So any other thoughts on that one, Brandon?
They got to guard us too. It's not supposed to be easy. Like Duke has a lot of really, really good players. Cooper Flag is one of the best basketball players in America right now. Like there doesn't have to be an easy answer. Like it's okay. That's what makes basketball hard. Like some players are really freaking good and it's hard to guard them. Well, guess what? Like I feel okay with 22-year-old Andrew Carr rolling Cooper Flag down to the post a couple of times. Like Cooper Flag's a phenomenal defender, but I think we can get a couple buckets on him just by being a little bit bigger, by being 4 years older, by weighing 20 more pounds. Like that'll be okay. Or okay, like Cooper Flag, you want to switch on to take it away for a possession on the perimeter? Like let's see if you can stay in front of him when he gets downhill and puts his shoulder into your chest. Like I'm cool with rolling the dice on that. And yeah, like Cooper Flag's gonna give everybody in the country plenty of problems, and every other Zoom action show across the country is going to be talking about this, on a week-to-week basis. But again, that's what makes, that's why you pay your coaching staff millions of dollars, is that they're going to, kind of figure out the game plan, and Coach Shire and his group is going to have to game plan for how you guard Kentucky and Zoom action, and maybe they'll watch this show to try to figure it out.
And Andrew Carr is not going to be surprised or fooled or tricked by anything that Cooper does. That's where experience, I think, will come in. It's just a matter of, Cooper's got a lot of talent. How much does talent just kind of beat out solid, sound defense?
Yep.
I guess we'll find out early on. So that'll wrap us up here for episode 2 of Zoom Action. We'll be back in another 2 weeks. We'll probably be breaking down the Duke game, actually. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll probably have some other clips we'll try and throw in there. If you've got if you see something that you want us to break down and you're confused by something, shoot us a DM or something like that on Twitter, and we'll consider looking at those plays and things like that. So that was episode 2 of Zoom Action. We will see you all next time.